He was the most famous man in the world, and he was back, fresh out of the army. Everyone wondered what he would do. Would he still be the same? The kid who shook his hips and made the world lose its mind? Or would the military have changed him, made him more serious, more mature? The pressure was immense. His manager, a shrewd man named Colonel Tom Parker, knew this. The whole world was watching. They needed to make a statement. They needed to show that he was bigger than ever. Not just a flash in the pan, not just a rock and roll kid. So, they went to Nashville, to RCA's Studio B, a place that would become legendary. It wasn't a fancy place, just a simple, boxy room. But there was magic in its walls. He was surrounded by the best musicians in town, or the A-team they called them, guys who could play anything you threw at them. And they were ready to work. The session started in March of 1960. They were productive. They recorded some great songs, big, powerful songs. Songs that would become massive hits and redefine his sound. But there was one song that was different. It wasn't a rocker, it wasn't a gospel tune. It was an old song. A very old song from the 1920s. A relic from another time. A vaudeville standard. The Colonel wanted him to record it. Well, actually, his wife Marie wanted him to record it. It was her favorite song. The Colonel always aimed to please his wife, so he pushed for it. He thought it would be a good move. It would show a softer side, it would appeal to a different audience. The parents of the screaming kids. He was not so sure. He thought it was dated. Corny, even. It wasn't his style. He was a rock and roll singer, a bluesman. This was a parlor song, something your grandmother would listen to. He resisted. But the Colonel was persistent. He kept bringing it up. Finally, at the end of a long recording session in the early hours of April 4th, 1960, he gave in. He said, okay, let's give it a try. He didn't seem enthusiastic. The musicians probably thought it was an odd choice, too. The session had already been a success. They had recorded some fantastic material. Everyone was tired. It was late, maybe 4 a.m. The mood in the studio shifted. This wasn't a high-energy rock song. This was something quiet, intimate. He asked for the lights to be turned down. He wanted it dark, just a small light on his lyric sheet. He stood in the middle of the room. The musicians gathered around him in a circle. It felt less like a recording session and more like a quiet late-night jam. The producer, Chet Atkins, a guitar legend in his own right, set up the microphones carefully. He wanted to capture the intimacy of the moment. He placed one mic for his voice and others positioned to pick up the small group of musicians. The Jordanaires, his backing vocal group, were there, ready to add their smooth harmonies. They ran through it once. A practice take. Just to get the feel of it. The arrangement was simple. A gentle acoustic guitar intro. A soft piano. A stand-up bass keeping a slow, steady rhythm. Then his voice. Quiet. Gentle. Almost a whisper. He wasn't singing it like a pop star. He was singing it like an actor delivering a monologue. He was telling a story. The song has a strange structure. It's a sad, gentle ballad. But in the middle, the music fades down and there's a spoken word section. A monologue. It's a very theatrical device. A bit old-fashioned. This was the part that could easily sound cheesy. It was a tightrope walk. One wrong move, one bit of insincerity, and the whole thing would fall apart. He started the spoken part. The room was completely silent. The only sound was his voice, low and resonant. He wasn't just reading the words, he was living them. He spoke of an empty stage, of playing a part in a play. The words were about lost love and regret. He delivered them with a kind of quiet sadness that was shocking. Where did this come from? This wasn't the boy from Tupelo who sang about blue suede shoes. This was a man wrestling with deep, complex emotions. Loneliness, heartbreak. The musicians were mesmerized. They had never heard him like this. So vulnerable. So raw. He finished the monologue, the music swelled back up, and he sang the final lines of the song. The last note faded away. Silence. Nobody in the control room said a word. The engineer, Bill Porter, was stunned. He knew he had just captured something special, a moment of pure, unadulterated magic. And then a small mistake happened, right at the very end. As the last chord faded, one of the backing singers, a man named Ray Walker, moved his head slightly. He bumped the microphone stand. It made a tiny, almost inaudible thump. In the silence of the studio, it sounded like a drum beat. It was a flawed take, technically. Chet Atkins, the producer, came on the intercom. He said, "That was great, but we need to do it again." The harmony was a little off at the end. He was a perfectionist. He wanted it to be flawless, but he didn't want to do it again. He felt he couldn't top it. He said, "No, that's it. That's the one." He knew what had just happened. He had poured something of himself into that microphone, something he couldn't just summon again on command. He felt he had captured the feeling perfectly. He didn't want to try and replicate it. It wouldn't be the same. He argued with the producer. This was rare. He usually trusted his producers. But this time, he was adamant. The head of the record label, Steve Scholes, was there. He sided with him. He said, "You know, Chet, he's right. There's a feeling on this take that we might not get again." So they listened back to the recording. The feeling was undeniable. It was intimate. It was heartbreaking. It was real. The tiny thump at the end was still there, but it didn't matter. The emotion of the performance completely overshadowed any tiny technical flaw. They decided to keep it. That was the master take. So, was it recorded in a single, unedited, emotional take? The answer is both yes and no. It's a myth, but it's a myth rooted in truth. It wasn't the very first time he sang the song that night. There were a few takes. Session logs show there were false starts and at least one complete take before the master. So it wasn't a single take in the sense that he walked in, sang it once, and walked out. That's the stuff of Hollywood movies. Recording is a process. It involves warming up, finding the right key, getting the levels right. But the master take itself, the version the world knows, was a complete continuous performance from the first note to last. It wasn't pieced together. They didn't take the first verse from take 2 and the chorus from take 4. The monologue wasn't recorded separately and dropped in. It was all one unbroken piece of performance art captured in real time. In that sense, it was very much a single take. And the unedited part, for the most part, that's true. They didn't use studio tricks to fix his voice. They didn't splice words together. They left the performance as it was. They even left that tiny thump at the end, though they tried to mask it a little in the final mix. So, while the term unedited might be a slight overstatement in the technical world of audio engineering, it's true to the spirit of the recording. They preserve the raw moment. The most important part of the question is the emotional part. Was it a truly emotional take? Absolutely. There is no doubt about that. You can hear it in his voice. The sadness, it's not just technique, it's feeling. He connects with the lyrics on a profound level. When he says, "The stage is bare and I'm standing there with emptiness all around," you believe him. You feel his isolation. This performance was a turning point. It showed a new depth to his talent. He wasn't just a singer. He was an interpreter of songs, an actor who used his voice as his instrument. He could take an old, forgotten song and make it sound like he had written it himself that morning, torn from the pages of his own diary. The record label released the song. It became one of the biggest hits of his career. It went to #1 all over the world. It proved that he could do more than just rock and roll. He could sing a heartbreaking ballad and make the whole world stop and listen. It cemented his status as not just a star, but an artist. But the story of this song doesn't end in that dark studio in 1960. There's another chapter, a much funnier one. Fast forward 9 years. It's 1969. He's no longer the returning soldier, he's the king, making a triumphant return to live performance in Las Vegas. He's at the top of his game, confident, playful. He's performing at the International Hotel. The stage is huge. The band is massive. The sound is electric. This is not the quiet, intimate setting of Studio B. This is a spectacle. One night, he decides to sing the song. The audience quiets down. The band starts the familiar, gentle intro. He begins to sing. He sounds fantastic. His voice is richer now, more powerful. He gets to the spoken word part. The music drops away. The spotlight is on him. He delivers the opening lines of the monologue. "I wonder if you're lonesome tonight. You know someone said that the world's a stage, and each must play a part." He's deep in the drama of the moment, and then something happens. As he continues, a backing singer, a woman named Sissy Houston, sings a high, ethereal soprano line behind him. It's a beautiful, haunting sound, but for some reason, on this particular night, it strikes him as funny. He tries to continue the monologue. He says, "Fate had me playing in love." Some say he just caught the eye of one of his bandmates. Whatever it was, he starts to lose it. A small giggle escapes. He tries to stifle it. He puts his hand over his mouth, but it's no use. The laughter starts to build. He tries to get back to the script. He changes the line. Instead of "with you as my sweet leading lady," he sings "with you as my sweet darling." He's trying so hard to hold it together. The band is trying to hold it together. The audience is starting to chuckle along with him. He just can't do it. Sissy Houston hits another one of her high notes, and he completely falls apart. He breaks into full-throated laughter. It's not a small chuckle. It's a deep, genuine, can't-breathe kind of laugh. The kind of laugh you have with your best friends when you're not supposed to be laughing. He turns to the band, laughing, and says, "Man, I'm sorry." He's trying to apologize, but he can't stop laughing. He's supposed to be this serious, dramatic figure, but he's just a guy on stage, cracking up. He tries one more time to get through the monologue. He can't. He ends up just humming the melody and laughing. The band kicks back in, and he somehow manages to sing the final lines of the song, his voice still shaking with laughter. The audience erupts in applause. They loved it. They didn't see a mistake. They saw a human being. They saw the king, the icon, being real and spontaneous and funny. It was an unforgettable moment. Someone had the good sense to be recording the show that night. The recording was eventually released. It became famous in its own right. It's known as the laughing version. It's the complete opposite of the 1960 master take. One is a masterpiece of controlled, heartbreaking emotion. The other is a masterpiece of joyful, uncontrolled chaos. Together, these two recordings tell you everything you need to know about him as a performer. He could break your heart with his sincerity, and he could make you laugh with his unguarded humanity. He contained multitudes, he could be the lonely man on an empty stage, and he could be the guy who couldn't stop giggling at his own show. The original 1960 recording remains a landmark. Its power comes from the belief that it was a singular moment of inspiration, captured perfectly. The myth of the single take is so powerful because we want to believe in that kind of magic. We want to believe that an artist can walk into a dark room and, in one go, pour out a perfect, flawless piece of their soul. The reality is a little messier, but no less magical. The magic wasn't that he did it on the first try. The magic was that he did it at all, that he had the courage to be so vulnerable, that he insisted on keeping the take that felt right, not the one that was technically perfect. The real magic is in the performance itself, not in the number of attempts it took to get there. So, when you listen to that song, you're not just hearing a beautiful voice singing sad words. You're hearing a moment in time, you're in that dark studio at 4 a.m. in Nashville. You're feeling the exhaustion of a long session. You're hearing the quiet determination of a young man who knew, instinctively, when he'd captured lightning in a bottle. You're hearing the sound of an artist taking a risk and creating something immortal. The small flaws, the quiet thump of a microphone, they don't detract from it. They make it more real. They remind us that this perfect emotional performance was created by human beings in a real room on a real night. The legend of the single take serves a purpose. It elevates the recording from a great pop song to a piece of folklore. It simplifies a complex process into an easily digestible story of pure genius. And while it might not be 100% accurate in the strictest sense, it captures the spirit of what happened that night. A moment of profound emotion was captured, preserved, and shared with the world. It was a complete, unbroken expression of feeling, and in the end, that's all that really mattered. The feeling is real, the emotion is unedited, and the performance stands as one of the most iconic of his career. The song, of course, was Are You Lonesome Tonight?